There's hidden Technoblade lore on the Dream SMP, lore that you almost certainly don't know, but which has been on the SMP for ages. Lore which is incredibly interesting and could even tell us ahead of time what the lore of the SMP will be in the future. Before the video starts, a bit of a serious note. Techno recently made a video in which he announced that he had been diagnosed with cancer, and in light of this, I've decided to make this video a fundraiser on YouTube's page, and all the revenue from this video as well as what you guys donate will go to MMRF, a charity that's helping find a cure for some of the still incurable forms of cancer that exist today. That out of the way though, let's look at Techno's lore again, shall we? Because there are themes on the Dream SMP that have been established since, well, like Pogtopia, yes, this goes that far back, that seem to hint at Techno's character being involved in the lore in ways that we haven't ever considered. Ways that could affect even the newest bits of lore that we've got, from the burger conflicts with Las Nevadas and Reviver to Dream and Techno being stuck in prison together. Also, if you do enjoy this video, please make sure to subscribe. I put hours and hours into these videos and only a small percentage of my viewers are actually subscribed. As with all lore though, this theory, or observation really, starts with stuff that happened ages ago and that nearly everyone missed. You see, we now know that Quackity as a character has never really had any aims per se, any real goals, except that he wants to feel like he belongs. With that in mind, let's look at the Butcher Army arc again. Why? Well, if we take a look at the arc as a whole, there's one thing that pops out when we re-examine it. Quackity already belonged to New L'Manberg. He didn't need to create the Butcher Army, he was already part of the group per se. He had enough influence to make Tubbo and gang form an army that they didn't really need to form. He convinced them that Technoblade, who at this point hadn't even caused a major portion of the damage towards L'Manberg, deserved retribution. If anything, Quackity should have been pseudo-grateful towards Techno, because after L'Manberg was destroyed and betrayed for the first time by Wilbur and Techno, the subsequent power vacuum and Tubbo coming to power let Quackity finally belong to a faction for the first time since, well, Mexican L'Manberg, which he created. It makes absolutely no sense for Quackity to lead his new group of friends into a situation of peril that could tear them apart unless he has some sort of ulterior motive, some sort of further plan or drive. So this begs the question then, why did Quackity form the Butcher Army? And the answer, on learning Quackity's motives with Las Nevadas, suddenly becomes crystal clear. There's a concept used in psychology called Maslow's Hierarchy of Needs, and basically what it says is that you only look to satisfy one set of needs after all of your previous needs are met. That's a massive oversimplification, but for example, if you're hungry and stuck in the rain, you're going to look for shelter and food first before looking for a way to entertain yourself, like following me at twitch.tv/Animagician. An analogous version of this pyramid is what I'm using for Quackity's character here. Although Quackity's character has and always will place belonging first as his most basic and important need, once this is fulfilled, as it was in New L'Manberg, and as he has managed to do with Las Nevadas by simply forcing people to join it with him, he moves on, his goals change, and Quackity as a character moves towards a goal that's much more common amongst characters, both fictional and real: power. Now, let's talk about Technoblade. Technoblade is undeniably powerful on the Dream SMP, if not the most powerful character of all. His immense wealth, hours of grinding, incredible work ethic both on and off the SMP as well as on a more real level, his technical skill with Minecraft as a game make him powerful in the material, physical sense. He has weapons, he has fighting skill, and he has resources, and these qualities with the SMP's current state make him incredibly strong. However, that adds a caveat that isn't generally considered, and a condition that has been overlooked and holds the key to this theory. There are two types of power on the SMP. Physical power, like that which we see from Technoblade, Dream, or even Awesome Dude, and verbal or social power. This is the kind of power we see from Wilbur and also Reviver, and also the kind of power that Quackity in particular has proven that he can wield exceptionally well. The thing is, right, physical and verbal power are a sort of seesaw when it comes to their precedence in the SMP's lore. Back when L'Manberg and then later Pogtopia and Manberg were still around, verbal power was the most important form of power one could hold. Schlatt, and even Manberg as a country, had next to no physical power for the majority of the Pogtopia arc, with Dream only joining Schlatt's side at the last minute, and yet they and he, Schlatt, was one of the most powerful members of the server at the time. Wilbur did the exact same thing, but to an even greater extent with L'Manberg. He had virtually no power in the time before L'Manberg, a time where the physical power of, say, Dream made him almost godlike, a time when Dream was an extremely powerful figure within the greater Dream SMP simply because he had the most stuff. And then after the creation of L'Manberg, with nearly no actual grinding, with nearly no actual increase in physical power, actively shunning armor, Wilbur suddenly became the second most, if not most powerful person on the server. currently on the SMP, physical power is the more important of the two. With the destruction of L'Manberg, what was basically the last bastion of verbal power, the last place where words would work over swords, was destroyed. There's a peculiar effect in the SMP's lore where characters are regulated in a sense, forced to choose one of the two strengths when they get more powerful. Quackity, Wilbur, they chose verbal power, and Techno and Dream, they chose physical power. And interestingly, when Techno tried to use his words in peace to spread the ideology of anarchy in the Antarctic commune, it next to failed. The Syndicate was only formed after Doomsday, and when Techno is peaceful, his verbal power, however much he tried, just couldn't seem to do anything, English major and all. Now we get onto the point that I'm trying to get to with this video. Verbal power, the power that Quackity excels with, is currently in decline on the SMP. Quackity also, with the creation of Las Nevadas, has forcefully created a place where he can belong, because he is one of Las Nevadas' defining traits in a way. He is its Wilbur, an integral part to its identity as a nation. And so, according to Maslow's hierarchy of needs, as I mentioned earlier, Quackity has moved on to his next objective: power. And that, dear viewer, is what Las Nevadas is, an attempt at forming a new government, a new country, a new way for Quackity to get his verbal power to be useful and meaningful again. He has Sam on his side because Sam, being rich, is physically powerful and is essentially a safeguard, a ward against current threats in the time where physical power is more powerful. Techno, quite naturally, has seen this forming and has watched Las Nevadas forming and growing from a distance warily, unwilling to engage in any real conflict because of Sam's power, but knowing that they pose an actual threat, and the way I'm saying that he considered Las Nevadas a threat is actually because of Snowchester and how Techno, with the rest of the Syndicate, has acted towards Snowchester before. Techno knows for a fact that Snowchester, being composed of Jack and Tubbo, is incredibly weak as compared to the Syndicate, even with the nukes and all considered. So what did he do? He went and paraded his dominance in front of them, warning them, showing them that the second that they, as a government, grew too big for his liking, that they'd be crushed like bugs. He made sure that they knew of his position. Truly, a Sigma grind set move. Anyway, Techno didn't parade any dominance in front of Las Nevadas, because they're an actual threat to him. And instead, he plotted and schemed ways to actually affect them in ways that would matter. Keep in mind, apart from Phil, Techno has next to no actual allies. The Syndicate members aren't at all actually obligated to help him, and for example, Ranbu is busy with the Burger Wars and the Wilbur. Phil, in addition to this, only has one canon life. Techno was apprehensive in having Phil fight alongside him and Dream at Doomsday, a fight that was the most brutal pushover of all time, a fight which they were guaranteed to win. In a more evenly matched fight, like the one that would be against Las Nevadas, there's no way that Techno would let Phil go into battle with him, and this brings me on to the final part of the theory and how this ties in to what's currently happening on the SMP. Okay, so we know a few things. Techno wants to attack Las Nevadas and is currently stuck in prison. Techno also knew that he would want to somehow strike against Las Nevadas for a while before even being put in prison, and that Techno gave Phil a will before pretty voluntarily going into what was quite clearly a trap. A will that is almost unanimously agreed has secret instructions on how Techno could be freed that Phil could execute from outside the prison. This leads on to perhaps the most compelling part of the theory, what shows me at least that Techno has an ulterior motive with going into prison. Techno, after being locked in prison with Dream, just absolutely will not shut up about the revive book and getting it from Dream. He asks once to see it, then again as part of an escape plan, then again challenges Dream in a way to try and get him to reveal it, then again just to see it. You get the picture. Techno is hell-bent on getting the revive book from Dream. And this, however, seems pretty normal at first. Who wouldn't try to get the book from Dream, right? But then, perhaps the most memed on part of Techno and Dream's imprisonment occurred.
Bro.
One. He's gonna grant a wish?
We can get one wish. We can get one wish. I want a bell. I want a bell. Give me a bell.
Techno!
Give me a bell.
What do you... Get us out of here! What do you mean you want a bell?
I want a bell. Yo! Yo, it's working! Yo!
What?
Yo!
What do you mean you want a bell?
Now, this is a hilarious clip when viewed outside of the lore, right? But it makes absolutely no sense when you think about the actual SMP lore. Who in their right mind wouldn't get out of prison given the opportunity? Well, Technoblade. You see, I think that Techno's plan with going to prison was to stay in there for as long as he needed to, as long as he could even, to try and coax Dream into giving him the revive book. That's why he denies Dream XD's offer of freedom. He hasn't got what he came into this obvious trap for, he still needs to get the book from Dream. He can't straight up ask Dream XD for the book because it's a forbidden item and there's a chance of the request being denied, putting Dream on guard and making Dream less likely to give Techno the revive book. Instead, Techno is stalling. Then, once Dream finally gives Techno the book, Techno will turn on Dream, killing him once and then reviving him with the book. This isn't for any hatred or spite-related reasons, quite the opposite. Instead, this kill will be a sign for the one and only Philza, who would have got instructions from Techno's will to wait for this sign and then activate an Ender Pearl stasis chamber. This chamber then teleports Techno out of the prison with the revive book, and then, because Techno has the revive book, he can go into battle against Las Nevadas with Phil without breaking a sweat, because if the hardcore man somehow dies, he can just revive him, thus crushing Las Nevadas under his boot, destroying Quacky's attempts at the government, and Blood for the Blood God would never have rung more true. If you enjoyed this video, watch this video about who actually made the revival book, and it wasn't J-Schlatt. Subscribe!